Hey guys, it's me Rebecca. So this will be the start of another weekly vlog, and so far today I've just done some shoveling. It has been snowing, so I had to clear that up, and thankfully it was less icy than what I expected, as it did snow yesterday, and the driveway probably falls overnight, so yeah. But I have also done some reading, and I did start Thin Places by Kay Quanister, and this is a collection of short stories. I think this was initially published a few years ago, but I think it's now been republished. I'm not. Yeah, reissued. And it's about a not quite human puppeteer menses guest at a hotel on the edge of a slum. A composer visits a remote Slavic village where villagers perform soundless songs that accompany violent sacrifices. Four reclusive women construct children out of unconventional materials in an unnerving mansion. The arrival of a night housekeeper's daughter portends disaster for an insular island community with bizarre traditions. With transcendent pose that celebrates her hypnotic and humane vision of the strange and supernatural. Kay Quanister weaves a dark tapestry of love, grief, death, and an exquisite pain and joy of life on the periphery of the familiar. The 15 stories collected here chronicle the lives of powerful women and children, wicked witches and demons, cursed artists, and overlooked communities. So yeah, and I am currently on page 74. I'm in the middle of a story, and I've read the first 5 stories, and so far nothing really stands out to me. I do think all the stories were quite interesting, and I did like all of them, but yeah, I also started this morning when I was still not quite awake. I was still quite tired, so my bad. But the first story in this collection is called Your Clothes a Sepulchre, Your Body a Grave, and it's about this boy who falls in love with this girl who her freedom is restricted, and apparently there's something wrong with her, and she's like her mother's daughter according to the aunt she's living with. At one point it seems like she's being locked in the cellar, and the boy, he once tried to free her so they could go to Morales, I think it is, in France, for the day, and yeah, she's caught and she doesn't get her freedom while the boy lives his life. He goes to university, he gets married, he has children with his wife, and she doesn't have freedom, and he sees her once more when she's pregnant. She has a baby and she dies in childbirth like her mother did with her, and the baby is his, so there's that. I gave that 4 stars. And Moon-Eyed Women, which is the second story, is about this boy who it seems he's been exiled from his homeland of Wales and has had to come to the New World, and he has a wife made out of, I don't know, but she's not entirely human, it seems. Then we have the woman who sing for Skip, and this is the one that was described in the synopsis. It's about this composer who he's really trying to steal music from, I guess, certain lands to take credit for or to get inspiration for, and he happens to be a witness to this ritual that his assistant, a photographer, seems to end up getting involved in, where the girls and boys in this village, they go into the woods and they go under a river, and it seems like they've drowned, or that but they're only gone for a week because there's this period of time called the Green Week, and they come back and the boy is married to this girl, his assistant is married to a girl, and you see how this local woman, like, she sings and he's not able to hear what she's singing, and he's living in this stranger house which no one in the village wants him to live in, and he is warned to leave the village before it's too late, before he's unable to, and we see how, well, he kind of is unable to, how he becomes a resident of this village. And the fourth story is The Warriors, the Mother, and the Drowned. And this is about this mother who is on the one, her husband had a lot of gambling debt, and she had to run, otherwise like the debt collectors were going to kill her daughter, who is severely ill. And she runs into this wolf-like creature who tells her that her daughter's meant for the land of the dead, and they go there, and the woman trades the wolf and becomes the wolf herself and is with her daughter. So, and the next is Too Lonely, Too Wild. Short synopsis is that it's about this girl who, her grandmother was a witch of some sort who wanted her to leave the town. When her grandmother died, she ended up marrying this guy, and they lived on the outskirts of town, and she never was able to do magic like her grandmother was, and she does leave town. And she's the only woman who leaves town who is in an unhappy marriage, as the other women in the town are slowly dying because of the marriages they're in, and she's on her own, and she does also have a daughter, and she promises her daughter will not be the marrying type. So yeah, and the story I currently am on, which is Walling Without Form, I believe it is I've just started it, and it's about this couple who've kind of come to this motel, even though the sign says no vacancy, and try and get a room, and they hand the person behind the desk currency that the desk person isn't sure they can accept. So, but yeah, so far I've liked all of the stories. I thought they were fine so far. Like, I don't know, nothing stood out to me so far. So yeah, but I would say all of them were 3-4 stars. Like, they're fine. I like them. I like the writing. So yeah, I do like the message of motherhood, and I guess how complicated it can be for women when it comes to relationships with their mothers, or lack of relationship, and what they'll do to protect their children, and yeah, and how I guess the mother's history can be passed down to the child, it seems. So yeah, so far it's okay, and yeah, and I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I've done some work and whatnot, and I also did some more reading of In Places, and I have read 4 more stories, and I'm in the middle of the 5th one, and I'm currently on page 150, and again, like, I'm finding this collection to be fine. Like, things are happening to the characters, like, in the center of the stories, but there's no explanation, and it's quite vague, I'm finding it, like, in the sense of, like, what's going on, the character seems to be understanding, but we, as the audience, are not. With the story I left off yesterday, which was the 6th story, I think, called Walling and Without Form, it's this woman who is working at the desk of a motel that her mother owns, and it seems like she's never left a motel, or she knows it's this motel, and she's obsessed with romance novels, like cheesy, like historical ones. And there are guests who don't seem to ever leave, and then these two new guests show up, and it makes some people uncomfortable and not suspicious, but wary in a sense, like, who are these newbies? Where are they from? Like, that kind of thing. And they offer our narrator the chance to leave the motel to go into this town that's like 10 miles off. And this narrator, she's a woman in her 40s, and she's still taking care of her elderly mother, who also seems very reluctant to leave even her room, or is unable to leave her room. And there's something about blood, so I'm guessing, I was thinking vampires, but more like blood transfusions to the older woman. So, but the narrator, she kind of leaves the motel and then goes right back, knowing that she feels more safe there. So, and then the next one was Life Cycles, which was this father. He was in debt to this woman whose last name was Claire, and he was supposed to return to her in about 20-ish years, but he had a son who looks exactly like him, so he gives up his son, and they're in an abandoned house, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna say about that. I don't know. And then the next was a comeback with a minor name, and that one is this woman and her husband. They're in this town, but the husband wants to know why the population hasn't really changed, why the birth rate hasn't changed, and he cannot figure it out. Then the woman gets close with this other woman named, I think it was Mary. Yeah, Mary Bethany, who has this family home that's quite odd, in the sense there was a fire and that house was the only one that didn't burn down, and as well there's some suspicions around her family with something her father did, and we see how Mary Beth and our narrator, they're building something in that house, or they're almost restoring that house, and Mary Beth is like building a nest. Apparently there's this man who takes responsibility for all the children in that town, and he might also be the reason for the weird birth rate. And the one I had after that is The Fifth Gable, which was about these 4 women who make children. Like, it doesn't seem biological children. I don't understand entirely, but it was that one woman made children almost like make wine, another woo children like they were flowers, another build children like missions, and they're in this like time period where it's during the World War, and was it ever explained how one of the last women ever made children? I don't think so. I think she would just put the woman in a 5th gable and a 5th room, and the children would disappear, it seems like. And we know this because one day a woman comes to the house after stalking the house for a bit, named Margaret, who's like, she wants a child because her husband wants a child, and it seems like she doesn't want a child, so I don't know, they all seem to feel almost purposely, and yeah, and the one I'm telling you on is White Throat Holler, and so far with that one, it's about these demons that live in town and that kill mothers or make mothers disappear, and has killed children, and it's quite a I guess, normal thing in this town. No one really speaks of it until one day the sheriff's favorite daughter, is found dead. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. I'm just in the middle of that one. And yeah, overall, I think in this collection is fine. I would say. Yeah, I don't know. It's not bad, but yeah. I don't know. I just wish the stories were properly went into more depth, because I think that's what I'm missing. Because I think it just feels quite surface level. So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I just don't feel connected. I guess I'm intrigued, but yeah, I think that's all for now. So I'll see you next. So it's the next day and I've done some work and I have also done some reading, and I did finish Thin Places by Kay Conister, and unlike what I said yesterday, I did feel like I was in some of these stories, and I do have to say one of the stories, I think it's The Lights We Carried Home, this felt almost like an outlier, but this is I guess I wouldn't say location sense, but I did like that one. And yeah, overall I think I'll give this collection 4 stars, just because some of these stories were quite interesting. They were still quite vague in what they were trying to say, I would say, and I would have gotten a bit more idea of what exactly was going on, but we are also dealing with characters who are so used to what's going on that for them there's nothing really to explain, and it would feel weird if they explained it, if that makes sense. So yeah, but the story I was on yesterday, which was White Sword Holler, that's about the story of demons that haunt this town, and Girl and 2 of her friends go to hunt the demons, and one of them is killed, and it seems we learn that they're not supposed to do that, as apparently the demons, they're not good for this town, but they benefit this town. What was it exactly? The founders of this town, they had made a deal with the will owners of the land, and that the rest of the world lives the town alone, but they live on the edge of Hill's Mouth, and at the time that sounded a good idea. So yeah, I did like that. And the next one was Soto's Voice, which is about this girl who's at a boarding school, and she befriends another girl who's very good at piano, and this girl also becomes excellent in piano, and the girl invites her to her house, and this girl seems like she's rich, she comes from money, that her house is nice, and she puts ideas, I guess, into her friend's head that they will be a nice house, but when they get there they see this house is falling apart, and there's someone whose face is essentially playing this instrument that's not exactly a piano, but yeah, and the little girl, she becomes almost obsessed with getting good at piano and goes to a conservatory, but realizes that's not for her, and she becomes the new faceless person playing the piano. And then we have Wushila's wait, I don't know how to say that, but yeah. But it's about this family that kind of lives off-grid, and it seems like everyone who has this family's name does that. They don't really go to each other's houses, they don't really interact with people, and 2 of the children are in school, and the town or someone from the school district is sending letters to the mother saying that it's time for her youngest to go to school and she's not ready, and they have barn cats, and the youngest gets attached and to this barn cat, and
So the cat dies, and really we learn that they have to kill animals, and it seems like it's some sort of sacrifice. That one is didn't really make sense on like why exactly they had to kill animals, but it seems like it makes the children appear more normal for them to go to school, and if the third one goes to school, they'll have to kill more animals. So yeah. And the next one was The Lights We Carried Home, and this is about this village, and that is almost haunted by these ghost-like figures, and they have to wear red bracelets and put out lanterns in order to stay on this side of the divide, I guess, and for the ghosts not to hurt them. And one day this film crew comes to town wanting to, I guess, document what's going on, especially with the narrator's sister who disappeared over a decade prior. But what the film crew is saying is that it's about some sort of wires that goes through town, but they're not electricity, and the province got in trouble for that. So yeah, and it's about this girl finding out what happened to her sister, how her sister was more drawn to the help to the ghosts, and that someone is hunting the film crew and killing them, and they suspect it is the help, and the girl learns what happened to her sister. And we have The Yoke of the Aspens, which is about this girl and her father that live in this cabin, and the father has ensured there's no way for them to see outside. He's taken away all of their radio and their TV, something that would allow them to have a connection to the outside, but also has thrown away mirrors and boarded up windows, which prevents them from seeing well outside, but also seeing themselves. And apparently this girl, she has a sister that the father separated them essentially when they were born, and the sister lives in the woods, and she's someone that the father calls the angry one. And yeah, that one was interesting. And the last story, which is the, I guess, name of the collection, Thin Places, is about this town that's on that thin place, and every year needs, I guess, it's sacrificed to be living and for things to continue to be normal, for there to be a harvest. And the sacrifice is usually the lighthouse keeper, except this time, which is typically a lone figure, but this time it is a family. And the town is wary of them, doesn't want anyone to really know or be close to them, or just keep away from them. And the schoolmaster gets close to the young grown ones to help her. And yeah, it's really about the history of the town and why they do this. But yeah, overall, even though I didn't feel connected to the first bit of this collection, I think this is my mental state, I want to say, where I was. The stories were interesting, but I don't know if it was me or the writing, but I didn't feel connected. But the last few I was very much intrigued, but I still didn't feel connected, I guess. So I guess I still liked it. Overall, 4 stars. And I do have to say I like how with this collection it played with the history of a place, whether it's the history of an old decrepit house or the history of a town, and what might be this history, the hidden history, not the history that's written in textbooks, written down and that many people believe. It's this unwritten history of a place that I liked. So yeah, overall 4 stars, and tomorrow I will say what I'm planning to read next. And yeah, I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I've done some work and whatnot, and I have also done some reading. And the book I started was The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. I got my book secondhand, so and it didn't come with a dust jacket, and I have the synopsis pulled up on my laptop on Goodreads, and the synopsis is: in 1972, when workers in Pottstown, Pennsylvania were digging the foundations for a new housing development, the last thing they expected to uncover was a human skeleton. Who the skeleton was and how it got buried there were just two of the long-held secrets that had been kept for decades by the residents of Chicken Hill, the diabetic neighborhood where immigrant Jews and African Americans lived side by side, sharing ambitions and sorrows. Chicken Hill was where Marsh and Shauna Ludlow lived when Shauna ran the Heaven and Earth grocery store, which served the neighborhood's quirky collection of blacks and European immigrants. Helped by her husband Marsh, a Romanian-born theater owner who integrated the town's first dance hall. When the state came looking for a deaf black kid, claiming that the boy needed to be institutionalized, Chicken Hill's residents, roused by Shauna's kindness and the courage of a local black worker named Nate Timblin, banded together to keep the boy safe. And yeah, really, I've only read about, I'm on page 86, and what I got to so far is what's in the synopsis. We see Marsh as he is trying to get Jewish people to come to the dance hall as a Jewish band is coming, and he didn't have the best of luck as advertisements were then published, or they got lost, or people mistook them for official government letters, and only four couples came in. One was this. I mean, I have to look at it because I fear I might, but I think it's like Hostic Jew. I could be so wrong in how I pronounce that. Who was like, oh, I'm not looking for a dancer, I'm looking for a wife. And the next day, when everyone was leaving, there was a black smoke, and the Jew said, that's bad luck. And we see Marsh as he gets together with Shauna and their life together, and Marsh is someone who believes 12 could mean something bad, really, and in 12 years after he and Shauna get married, she comes down with this illness that no one seems to know what it is. Like, they've gone to multiple doctors, and they live in Pennsylvania, and they've gone to specialists in Boston and New York, like far places, and no one knows what's up with her, like what's wrong with her, and she is slowly dying, and she is at the point where the doctors, near them, have said if her fever gets high again, bring her to the hospital, because that means it's time. And the hostage Jew, whose name we learn is Malachi, he comes back and he makes this bread that's challah, and he's like, oh, give it to your wife, it will make her feel better, or it will heal her, and it somehow does. And yeah, we see how Jonah, she just wants good for her neighborhood. Like, she is an American-born Bulgarian, and she doesn't really have the same worries, I would say, that March has, who is from Romania, who had to one from Romania, as the Russian troops were after him, after his cousin Isaac, who escaped Romania with, as the
and he doesn't want the police involved. And she's not afraid to stand up for what she believes in sometimes. That can make people almost look down on her because she had polio, which affected her leg, and one leg I believe is much shorter than the other, and she is considered a cripple. And we see people, they come together because even they work for one another. I mean, they know one another, and they know they have to look out for one another as no one else will. And Marge and Shauna, they get involved with the case of this boy who, as his uncle comes to Marge and asks, hey, can we hide him in the future? Because the state is after him. And the boy, there's nothing like, I'm not even going to say that, but the issue with him is that he is deaf. His mother's stove blew up and it temporarily blinded him and it took away his hearing. So that's why the state wants to introduce him. And this was like in the 1930s, I think. Like, in the body was found in the 70s, and we do get a flashback to the 30s, and that's where the entire book is. Like, this seeing the lives of these people and whatnot. And I do have to say, I guess I like their beliefs in a sense. For Marge, America is this new start. Like, even if the start is rough, eventually you'll be able to make it clear, it seems like. And they're just trying to live by it. And there's a quote that he said that's on page 62. Not said, but, one quote. That's, life in America was hard, but it was free. And if you worked hard, you might gain some opportunity, maybe even open a shop or business of some kind. And he is a man who's worked hard. He knows how rough it was like when he was growing up, especially due to the fact he is a Jewish man. And he seems to have not gone along, but disagreed with Malachi on this, who considered America dirty, but too much. America is clean. It's Europe that's dirty. It's the old country that's dirty. There's so much history for him there that's ugly, and for him in America it's nice, it's decent, it's better. And I like it with the blacks in the community, like most of them, they came from the south, like some states that are more south to Pennsylvania, and they consider those states home, while Nate's wife Addie, who has lived in Pennsylvania her entire life, doesn't understand that. Like, for her, Pennsylvania is home. She's almost, I guess, the outlier in the community. And what I really like is the sense of community, how people are there for one another. And yeah, so far I'm intrigued, I would say. I am curious on seeing what leads up to the body being buried and whatnot. So, and I'm also curious in seeing what changes will occur in this community over time. So yeah, I think that's all for now, so I'll see you in. So it's the next day, and I've done some work and whatnot, and I also had to do some shoveling as it snowed a bit last night, so that was fun. And I have done some reading of the Heaven and Earth grocery store. Put me on page 193, and why was we got, I guess, the backstory of the doctor in this town, who the black people and the Jewish people just will not see, and Chona especially has, I guess, a vendetta against him. Like, she hates the fact that, okay, he is a member of the KKK in this town, and every year they march up and down Main Street stores or really businesses owned by black and Jewish people close down. They do it to protect themselves. Even though it seems like they don't actually hurt anybody, except Chona, who refuses to close that Heaven and Earth grocery store. And we get his history, how his family thought they were members who came from the Mayflower, except they weren't, and really, I guess, his hatred towards Jews, towards Greeks, towards anyone he's in this deemed immigrant, or bad, or not bad, but someone who's on I guess wrong side of someone who is different to him, someone who's not white, not Western European. Yeah. And we see how he went to high school with Chona, had a crush on her because she was extremely beautiful, and how he held it against her and her husband that they didn't go to see him more often when she was sick. He seemed to kind of form an opinion of them and form an opinion about Dodo, who has been told by everyone who's taken care of him to act dumb, and how the state wants him. And it seems like it's definitely less about helping him and more like hiding him because they think he's dumb and they want him separated from the rest of society, and as well for monetary reasons, it seems like. And Doc goes to the store and he's trying to have a confrontation, which we don't really see because we get it from Dodo's perspective, who is hiding, and while he's deaf, he can read lips, and during this confrontation he only sees Chona and what she's saying. And during this, Chona, after her illness, has developed seizures, and she has one, and Doc, instead of helping her, he takes this as an opportunity to just grope her, and Dodo woes him off her, and they fight, and he leaves and returns with the police, and they chase Dodo off a roof. He tried to jump off the roof and into a creek because he thought he would be able to ride, but no, he is taken to the sanatorium, and he meets someone who in today's day and age would be diagnosed with cerebral paralysis, but at the time they didn't know that, and they didn't have the language for that. They didn't really science, I guess, wasn't that developed, and we see him in the place, and we then see people in the community in the aftermath of how it's affecting them, because Chona, she had her first seizure and then had another and has since been in a coma. With Nate, he's angry, and it's gotten to the point where other residents don't know what he's gonna do, because we do learn some of Nate's history because of another character named Fatty, who was in prison for some crime he's embarrassed of, and he learns that Nate actually was in this prison for some reason unknown to the other prisoners, and he changed his name after he was released, it seemed. But what Fatih heard of those prisoners isn't how he can imagine Nate, because Nate is this calm guy, he's cool, he's chill, he loves his wife, and yet there's this silent anger in him. The other prisoners were there's something in him that's just waiting to boil over and be unleashed. And we see Nate at that state of that thing that's about to be unleashed, and I'm so curious to see the aftermath of that, because Fatty, to try and prevent it, is we need to get the boy out. So yeah, I am curious on how that's gonna go. I'm curious what's happening next, because I kind of have a feeling of who might be the one that's found dead, the skeleton, but if that is, that's quite obvious. But yeah, so far I'm liking it. Who I do have to say, I can see why some people might not like it with the way that we get the backstory of a character in mind, or we get the side stories of something happening with one character that might not be seemed extremely relevant to the main story, but it's like, oh, I guess cause and effect, like almost like or a domino effect, like because one thing happened and caused another thing to happen and another thing to happen, it seems like. So yeah, I can see why some people might have some issues with this, or might not not really like it, but does not feel connected. No, I don't know, but they just, yeah, they might just feel it's a bit worth, like, we didn't need all of this history, but it makes sense. I don't know what I'm trying to say anymore, I've lost that train of thought. But yeah, I think that's all for now.
So it's the next day, and I just got back from running some errands. I had to do grocery shopping, and one on before that I had to go with my mom to effing for her work. And I was able to do some reading while waiting for her, and I'm now on page 296 of the Heaven and Earth grocery store, and again, I'm liking it. We do see, I guess, the aftermath of Dodo ending up in the oh my god, it's not asylum, but penitentiary. Can I say that? But how it seems like the dog, he was able to not manipulate the story, but tell his version of the story, as the only people who witnessed what he did was, well, him and Dodo is considered dumb and he's deaf, so. But also Dog does have some leeway, I guess, over the council, as besides the fact he is a white man compared to Marsh, who is Jewish, or Nate and Addie, who are black. He also was part of the city council, or still is part, and it seems like there's some corruption going on in there, some bribery and whatnot in the council. And but we see how people, they're just really talking about making plans, and really some are making plans to get Dodo out of there. And it seems like with Nate and Addie, they're just tired. They just have almost given up, and they don't want Marsh and others involved. But well, they're getting involved, and we see a character named Paper, who is really known, who was given, I guess, that nickname due to the fact she's the town gossip. She basically she knows what's going on in Chicken Hill. She knows who's coming and going because of where her house is located. She's very well known in this part of town. So, but she goes to people who are considered even, I guess, lower than the people in Chicken Hill to get their help, people she knows, and she's one of this person who is, this black person who is working in the penitentiary, who isn't a good person, and we learn who this person is. It's like, they're called a son of man, and I believe the character earlier in the book was warned of this person. But we see them make plans to get him out of there, and all while we see that due to the fact she had 2 seizures, that Chona is slowly dying, and she is able, I guess, we reconcile like some friendships she lost in her youth, and make peace with people who that I guess she never had the opportunity to make peace with. And when we see she dies, and it breaks Marsh, like I can feel his grief. And Marsh, he decides he's just gonna sell the store, it's not gonna do anything for him. And we see Isaac and Micaiah, they come back, and they're like, we're here to help. And yeah, and we also see Dodo in the asylum, as he's making friends with Monkey Pants, as they find a way to communicate with one another, and I like that friendship. But you also see the creep that is son of man, who's like, at first he's nice and gentle with Yoda, and then it gets creepy well fast. So yeah, and we do see Doc afterwards. Like, I don't know, it seems like he does feel bad for what he did, but he also blames Trona because, well, she's a woman and apparently I don't know. But he did take a necklace she was wearing and he doesn't know what to do with it, so yeah, there's that. But really see people from different backgrounds come together, and how for some people they still think this is so wrong, this isn't what America should be. People from different backgrounds who are not Western European. And we also see people who are surprised that these people who are from different backgrounds are coming together. So we just see the different ideas of what people think is America and what makes up America. So yeah, I think so far I'm just finding it interesting. I like seeing how things are changing, and I think I guess it is extremely relevant, and that this is happening in 1936 when Hitler is rising to power in Germany. And I do like how the author, he is bringing this into play, because Marsh, his mother, is still in Romania, and these people, they still have these people, a lot of them still have family that are in this part of Europe, so it's like a lot of unknown, especially for the Jews in the community. So I like that's involved because it shows like it is affecting them. Like the people who aren't directly affected are affected because they don't know what's happening to their loved ones with their loved ones. So yeah. So I think that's all for now. I'm gonna lie down. So it's the next day, and I just got back from running a couple more errands. I had to pick up a couple more things at the grocery store, specifically Trader Joe's and Whole Foods, and from hanging out with a friend, which is nice. It's good to see them before we get a foot of snow in my state. So yeah, that's gonna be fun to clean up, and I have also done some reading. And I have finished the Heaven and Earth grocery store, and I enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it 4 stars, probably. And okay, the person I suspected might be the one in the well, the one who's dead. It's them. However, their death didn't really have anything to do with, like, I guess the main plot of the book, which was to save Dodo. It was basically because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, in the wrong costume, another character in this book, he borrowed money from someone thinking it wouldn't be a big deal, except by this guy turned out that if you don't return his money, well, it's gonna be an issue. And he and the person are at a Memorial Day parade in the one costume when he is approached by someone, and someone associated with working with this person who's like the one who follows people to get the money back and whatnot. And and the character who owns money, he's able to change into the white uniform. However, the other character's not, and because they're wearing a white uniform instead of the blue they're supposed to, well, this guy thinks he's supposed to get someone wearing a white uniform, and that's what happens. And at the same time, Fatty and his friend Soap, they're doing something involving the pipes under the city. We were hating the mess. Apparently the city's visitors going somewhere and giving someone water for free when it shouldn't, and yeah, so that's there. I kind of was a bit disappointed in that because I thought that would be something related to the actions of this person when really it was just something they were completely not involved with, which I guess is the point, because the book was really less about a specific group of characters, and really about people from a specific area of this town. And we do see people starting to plan to rescue Dodo, how people are putting steps down and whatnot, and we see Nate rescue Dodo, but we see the kind of before when he gets into the hospital, and kind of the bit of the after. However, I would have liked to get, Nate, find Dodo, and that's because the way it just seems it's a bit too easy, unless if in the time people thought, who the hell would break someone out of an asylum? That's ridiculous. Like, these people are probably here because no one gives a damn about them. So, yeah, we see that, and we see Noda's life after, and I kind of like his ending. Like, he deserved a happy ending to everything that's happened to him. And yeah, I don't know, there was also a part where Nate thought that he would never see Addie again, when that's not the case, and I don't know why he thought that, because if she really loved him, she would follow him anywhere and want to be with him. So I guess, I don't know, there's some things about it I was just personally not satisfied with, but I guess I get why it had to be that way. I don't know, but yeah. And I think that's all for now, and that is also the end of this video. And if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below telling me what you've been up to recently. If you want to, please subscribe to this channel, and if you want to follow me on any social media, all those links are in the down bar below. I'll see you guys next time I post a video. Bye.